First of all, thank you everybody for being here. I'm Maria Mora Pinton. I'm a preventive medicine physician and one of the leads of this project. And our goal over the last year has been to disseminate accurate information about COVID to our communities using mostly social media. We are really grateful for the work that's been done and for the support that the Wisconsin Pharmacy Program has given us. And to start today's session, we want to introduce our team, who is a most important part of this project and who makes everything possible.
Hi, I'm Ashley Benitez, and I'm a student here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm the community advocate for the Latino community. And I post up-to-date COVID information to the Latino Health Council here on Instagram.
Hello, my name is Lisbeth Solorzano. I am another community advocate for the Latinx community. And then I post up-to-date information about COVID-19 on Twitter at Madison_LHC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Venus Washington. I'm a health coach, personal trainer, and I am the community advocate for the African American community. And I post up-to-date information on the Facebook page handle COVID Madison. At COVID Madison.
Hello, my name is Sasheen Lawrence. I'm a community advocate for the Native American community, specifically the Oneida Nation. What I do is I post up-to-date COVID-19 information to my Facebook page. It's COVID-19 information for the Oneida Nation, and it's also shared on the Oneida Nation Facebook page.
Hi everyone, I'm George Levy and I'm the media specialist on the team. I work with the influencers to plan and create a post and to help with strategy and design.
Hi everybody, I'm Ornella Hills. I'm a PhD student in the communications department here at UW-Madison, and I'm mainly helping with the communication tools and how they were constructing our messages, as well as the evaluation for the project with the influencers. Thank you.
Hello, I am Melissa Matoxin, and I am a staff member with the Native American Center for Health Professions within the School of Medicine and Public Health.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Gleason, and I'm one of the co-PIs for this grant with Maria and Melissa. And I'm happy to be part of this dream team.
Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. And now it's my pleasure and an honor for me to introduce our very special guest today, Dr. Nasia Safdar. She gave us a little bit of her time today, and we are so grateful for you to be with us today, because I know that you're super busy. But for everybody that's going to be looking at this video, Dr. Safdar is the medical director of infection control at UW Hospital and Clinics. She's also vice chair for research in the Department of Medicine at UW-Madison. And you probably have seen her on TV, on radio, internet since the pandemic started, because she's a go-to person to answer some questions about what we know about the virus, what's happening out there, and more recently, what we do with the vaccine. Thank you so much again, Dr. Safdar, for being with us. I'll leave it up to our influencers right now to ask the questions.
Thank you, Maria.
I will start off with asking the questions. So our first question is, so it seems like all the health conversations are only about the COVID-19 pandemic. But around this time of year, we would normally be concerned with the flu. So is that something we should still be worried about?
So the flu is something that, anybody in infectious disease has a great deal of respect for. I think this year has been a very unusual year because we have not seen any influenza cases. At UW Health, we had one case this whole year, and to put it in context, at the same time last year, we had about 1,000 cases of influenza. So, we always worry about it because it could come up. It's still only February. But in general, this year has been a good year for influenza.
Some of our audience is encountering recommendations that suggest that elders or adults take the Pfizer vaccine rather than the Moderna vaccine. Is that true?
Vaccines that have been approved for COVID-19 are very similar in terms of their ability to help prevent individuals and their side effect profile. So my recommendation is, if you're offered a vaccine, no matter which of the two it is, and hopefully there'll be more than two very soon, is to just take that one. They all behave very similarly, and there's no reason to prefer one over the other.
So our next question is, recommendations for social distancing and preventative methods are constantly changing. Like there are now recommendations for double masks. Should we be wearing double masks?
I think that, the work that the CDC and others have done is really important to be able to define what the best way to do masking is. And what that study really showed is that it's important to stick to the principles of good masking, whether it is achieved by more than one mask or just one mask. But the principles of good masking are that you want something that snugly fits over your nose and mouth, that is comfortable enough that you don't have to constantly touch it to adjust it, and that doesn't cause any problems behind your ears or anything, in terms of being too tight. So snug, but comfortable, not too tight, and then ideally multi-layered. And the reason for wanting a mask to be multi-layered is just, the virus has to pass through several layers to get to you, and the more layers, the better. There is a limit to them because you want to be able to still breathe through the mask. But a multi-layered, breathable, well-fitting mask is as good as two masks. If you are using a disposable one, that's great. You want to make sure you dispose of it after a certain number of days, ideally just one or two. Certainly anytime you sneeze into it or cough, you want to get rid of it. And if it's a washable mask, then I encourage people to think of it as like a hanky. You don't want sodden handkerchiefs in your pockets for weeks on end, and you should think about that the same way for a mask too. Plan to have a good supply at hand so that you can get rid of them as they lose their integrity.
Okay, and then with that, how do we make sense of what we hear and what we can trust?
Well, I think that, from my own perspective, I think there are certain places where you can trust the information that's coming out from them. And so the CDC is one site. I know we've, from the beginning of the pandemic, I think some of the CDC guidance wasn't felt to be entirely independent and reflective of the science. But, I think that's changed. CDC for many decades has been a highly respected authority. So that's my go-to site for everything COVID related. The other site that's also very reliable, but is a little bit harder to navigate potentially, is the NIH site. So the National Institutes of Health. It has a lot of information. It's very dense. So I don't go to it unless I have a specific question related to the management of COVID. But for prevention and for the public, I think if you just look at the CDC website, that would be more than sufficient.
Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the vaccine reactions. Are there people with underlying health issues that have taken the vaccine? And if so, what kind of health issues were there, and were there any adverse reactions?
So, this is an interesting question, because most of the time when clinical trials, when research is done to see whether the vaccine can be approved or not, or does it work well, is it safe, they try to have those participants in trials that generally don't have a lot of medical conditions, to avoid confusing the picture. If you see a reaction from a vaccine, is it from the vaccine or is it from the medical condition? So generally trials are not going to really give us a great answer about, well, how many people with chronic conditions were there in them? But the real world experience of the vaccine does. And now that thousands, millions of people worldwide and several thousand in the US have been vaccinated with both the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine, now is a good time to see how did those people fare. And in general, very, very well. The reactions they are occurring. They are by and large mild. You typically don't think it's mild when you're having muscle aches after a vaccine, but in the big scheme of things, they last for a day or two and then they improve. Very few people, 1 in a million or less than that, are getting the severe allergic reactions, but it doesn't seem to be related to any chronic illness they have. It just seems to be one of those things that some people are more prone to reactions than others. And when they do get them, there needs to be monitoring at the site and management of that. But it makes the press, but it is a rare reaction.
Following up with that question, if you have a reaction to the first shot, will the next shot be the same or will it be worse?
So it depends on the nature of the reaction. If somebody has symptoms like, a fever, muscle aches, things that we would typically expect with a vaccine, the second time you get the dose or the second dose, yes, for some people, the reaction may be more severe, but still, manageable and goes away within a day or two. There doesn't seem to be any way to predict who will get a more reaction that's severe versus not. And it doesn't seem to matter in terms of immunity. So if you don't get the reaction, you're still likely to be immune. And if you get the reaction, you're also likely to be immune to the disease. But for some reactions, if you get what's called an anaphylactic reaction, meaning that you have trouble breathing or that you need something medication administered to you in response to the reaction, then those people should not get the second dose.
Question is, the CDC has advised people who have had severe allergic reactions to not receive the vaccine. Then when will they ever receive it, and will it be safe for them?
So there are certain groups of people that should not receive vaccines, and this is particularly that group that have severe reactions to any component of the vaccine. I think in the future, there are at least 12 other candidate vaccines out there, all made through different mechanisms and using different materials. And so an allergy to one doesn't necessarily mean that you can never get a COVID-19 vaccine. But I do think that it's going to be, several months into the future before some of these additional ones become available. So for those people, it's going to be really important for their own protection is to continue to mask and distance until a better option becomes available.
Thank you.
All right, so there was a doctor who died from vaccine complications. Can you talk a little bit more about this and what caused his death?
As far as I know, of course, this is all what's in the media. So what we learned, though, is that there is this exceedingly rare reaction from the vaccine, which is that it causes you to have a very low platelet count. And platelets is a component of the blood that helps the blood to clot and to come together. And when you don't have platelets, you can bleed. And depending upon how low your platelets are, you can have a pretty profound bleed that might result in loss of life. So this is one of those, idiosyncratic, extremely rare, once in a great while instance. But these things are only things that are known once the vaccine becomes available to the public, because even though there were, 40,000 people in clinical trials, it's a reaction that is so uncommon that millions of people need to get the vaccine for us to see one of it. So no one could have anticipated it. It's very unfortunate, but as far as I know, that was the reason and how it transpired.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. Next question is, there have been multiple different strains of the virus and new one emerging that have not been tested. So the new one is the B117 strain is now confirmed in Dane County. Where are these strains coming from? And will the vaccine be effective against these new strains?
So the way that variants and mutations emerge in viruses is that it's a consequence of just the natural evolution of these viruses. It's happening all the time. It's happening usually in the background, and we may not even be aware of it because some mutations have no consequence for humans and some mutations have a little bit more consequence for humans. So in the background, influenza does this too. It mutates constantly, but humans don't really care about that as long as it doesn't affect our health. With these particular COVID variants, I think there are some that are going to be more consequential than others. So this B117, what we know about it is that it seems to move more easily between person to person. And that's the reason for really wanting to be careful with distancing and masking. It doesn't seem to cause more severe disease or cause people to be hospitalized from COVID, which is a good sign. And then from the few studies that have done to see, you know, does the vaccine still work against it? I think the short answer is yes. It may not work in as stellar a manner as it does against the non-variant, but it still works very, very well.
And the next question is, as an older adult, if I get the vaccine, can I infect someone who still has not received the vaccine?
I think people have been asking this question for some time because it is such an important question to answer. When you think about how the vaccines were studied, we know that they help prevent people from getting severe COVID-19 infection. We know that they're really good at protecting people from having to go to the hospital with symptoms or to get complications of it. What we don't know is fully at this point is if you get the vaccine, can you still have the virus present in your nose and give it to others inadvertently? And that's part of the reason why people are saying that even those who are vaccinated should still wear masks and do some semblance of physical distancing until the vast majority of the population is vaccinated. I think in the big scheme of things, from the limited data that has come out, it seems likely that when you have had the vaccine, that you will not be able to transmit to other people. But I can't say that with a great deal of certainty yet.
So our final question is, are kids not able to take the vaccine? And if so, why is there an age limit with the vaccine?
So kids 16 and older are able to take the vaccine. For younger children, I think the issue is simply that what is the trade-off between vaccine reactions and side effects versus vaccine efficacy, how well it works? And because those trials are often not done to begin with, you know, children are a vulnerable group. So first you want to test something in adults, make sure it's safe before you would administer it to children. So currently there are some trials that are ongoing looking at children 12 and under for these vaccines. And once that data comes out, then I think people will feel more confident saying that children of any age should get it. And any age, generally it's 2 to 12. That's the age group under consideration. The good thing is that this particular group doesn't seem to suffer from severe COVID symptoms or in general, they do well. Of course, there have been several cases reported where they needed to be hospitalized and so on. But compared to adults, children have had a better time with this disease than we thought in the beginning.
Thank you so much.
Those were amazing questions and we got amazing answers. And now I want to open the floor for a wrap up with Dr. Safdar. Do you have any thoughts or something that's been on your mind that you want to share with our communities and with our influencers and advocates about COVID, the future, what to expect?
Hear me? Okay. I think the main thing I would just say is that unlike other pandemics that we have dealt with in the past with infectious diseases, with this particular one, there is a huge amount of misinformation and disinformation out there. And you cannot assume that just because it's on the internet that you can trust it. And so I would just urge people to be really cautious about having a few trusted people or sites that you can believe in and trying to filter out the rest of the sometimes very troublesome and disturbing noise that is out there.
Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for your time. And I will ask everybody, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Safdar. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.